Welcome back to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Laura Bradburn, where we will be looking at the first half of Celtic's League Cup quarter-final against Raith Rovers. Celtic are in control of this one, Laura, 2-0 up. What do you make of that first half?
Yeah, playing pretty good. I think probably what I would say is John Hartson said, I think about 20 minutes in, something that I quite agreed with, which was that I think we were perhaps persisting with going down the wide areas when the delivery wasn't as good as it could have been, and perhaps should have been trying to go through the middle a bit more, which turned out to be the case for the first goal with Jota. Perhaps against a better side, we would have struggled a little bit more and never found that breakthrough. But at the end of the day, as they always say, you've got to play who's in front of you, and we got that breakthrough eventually. But yeah, nothing much to write home about, to be honest. I'm kind of sitting here at halftime going, it's just about right for what I saw, but nothing too exciting for my book.
You know, the first thing that was spoken about, really, the first flashpoint was probably 19 minutes in, where Rogic does very well to get his cross into a Yeti, who at that stage hadn't really had an opportunity to get into the game, and the ball ricocheted off of Berra's arm. Was it a handball for you? Was it a penalty?
I thought it was, to be honest, and I thought at the time that, this is going to be the type of thing that they were going to need to get a break in the game. But yeah, I would have given it. Perhaps, I'm not sure of the reason why the referee didn't. Maybe he didn't see it. Maybe it wasn't deemed to be deliberate. I don't know if that's still the rule these days. It changes so often. But yeah, I think I probably would have given it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. And, it wasn't too long before Celtic took the lead 1-0 through Jota. He's a player who had the opportunity to speak to, actually, a few weeks ago, ACSOM. And when he looks good, he looks exceedingly good. Unfortunately, against Livy, he didn't have his best day. But as Ange said, no many players did. He's looked really, really good tonight. But sometimes he over-eggs it a wee bit. Sometimes he's a wee bit selfish. There was an opportunity for him to knock the ball into Rogic after his goal, but he went for the glory. But I have been impressed by Jota in that first half.
Yeah, as I was saying about Abada before the match, and Jota's proven to be the same on the other side. I really like a player who's not afraid to take people on, and he's certainly not afraid to do that. I think you're right in saying that, perhaps he could make better choices at times, maybe make passes when he chooses to take the ball on, or give the ball to somebody else when he chooses to shoot. But I think one thing that we can be certain of is that when he's on his game, he provides danger both in the form of assists and goals, and that is something that he said when we spoke to him, that he likes to provide both. He's certainly getting time on the ball. He's certainly getting the opportunity to take players on, and I think he's, at the very least, what we've seen from him compared to so many players we didn't see last season is an enthusiasm to play the game, and I think that's something that's sticking out to me more than anything from both him and Abada. I think he's doing great. I think he's still very early on. He came into us late in the transfer window, and he's probably still finding his feet, but I think he's been a good asset so far.
On the other side, of course, you've got Abada, who we weren't overly critical of in the pre-match, Laura, but we did say, he had drifted a bit after a good start in the hoops. He's got a goal, and I'm hoping that he can build on that. I mean, I don't think he was as effective as Jota in that first half, but you tend to see that all the play goes down the left or the right. It's very unusual if you're going to have two wingers tearing it up. But he got his goal, and I'm delighted for him, because I think at that age, like you said before the game, sometimes it's easy to forget he's still 19 years of age. If this is a kid coming through the academy and making the impact that he's made, you would expect him to be inconsistent.
Yeah, I would expect him to be inconsistent, but there are bits to his game that is, when he's on his game, he's providing consistently. And I think one of the main things that I really like about him is, yes, he's a wide player who can take people on the same as Jota, but he seems to take up really good positions in the box as well, sort of at the back post if the ball's coming in from the other side, or slightly out wide of the central player, where he's always there for rebounds. That that header that he got tonight was because he was in the right place for the rebound. It's not the first time that he's got a goal off of a rebound, and I really like the positions that he takes up. He seems to anticipate the play really, really well, and I think he is showing, that he's probably one of our most dangerous players. I think the consistency issue with him being 19 years old and struggling to find his feet a little bit, maybe in the Scottish League, is something that's to be expected, to be honest. But like I say, more game time, more experience, more coaching from Ange, and I think that'll all come good. I would like to see him play out the 90 minutes tonight, even though we're looking pretty comfortable, because I think having that under his belt would do him no end of good.
No, you're right. I mean, he was talking just last week, I think, about some of the other options he had when he came to Celtic. He could have gone to the States. He could have signed for Olympiacos, but he's come to Celtic. And, I think we'll put up with these inconsistencies because when he's good, he does show some excellent attributes. Now, we may see some changes. I don't know, because Ange hasn't shown that changing it at half-time is something he tends to do so far. But I'm like yourself, I would like to see him doing the full 90. But we will run through some of the other areas of the park. Now, I said it, not only during the bulletin today at 12:30, but in the pre-match, Laura, that one of the changes I would have liked to have seen, because it's a more direct change, would have been Ralston and Montgomery. I think in the first half they've shown that. Montgomery down that left, he's creative. He links defence to attack. He's got that ability to be able to link that either with a killer pass or even just going for a run himself. He's very direct. On the other side, you've got Ralston, who always showed, never hides. He's always shown for the ball. Again, a couple of occasions tonight rather, where we've seen him hitting the line and getting the ball over. The crossing hasn't been that effective. But these guys were doing that in the first half there, and that's what we needed against Livingston.
Yeah, Montgomery's a funny one, because I think he excites me in that he seems to be able to play anywhere up and down that left side. We've seen him play almost in a wide forward role. He's played wide midfield. He's played wide left back, and he seems to be able to apply all those skills that he has in playing each of those positions, no matter which of those positions he's playing in. So if he gets selected for a role further forward in the team, it doesn't mean that he shirks his defensive responsibilities. And if, as tonight, he's playing at left back, he seems to still be a threat going forward, and it's something that really I'm excited to see. I personally think if this inverted fullback, or whatever you want to call it, that Ange likes to play is to be believed, then I think Montgomery's a perfect type of player for that, and I think that's why we've seen so much of him this season, because I think Ange has possibly recognised that we've got Montgomery there, and it's encouraging to see that he is willing to give youngsters from our club that chance going forward. It was something he always said he would do if they were willing to take on his advice and his coaching, and it's something that he's kept his word to so far, especially with players like Montgomery. Ralston on the other side, I mean, I can't think of a player who has had more criticism having played less games for Celtic. He's been around the club now since he was 17 years old, in and out of the first team for 5 years, had loan spells away. He'd be forgiven for thinking that his time at Celtic was over, and then this season has come, and for whatever reason, he's been given opportunities in the first team, and he's grabbed them with both hands. He's done that again tonight. Like you say, his delivery hasn't been fantastic. He's had a few overhit crosses, but I would much rather have a player like him who is willing to give things a go, even if he doesn't do them as well as he should, rather than a player who is, shirking responsibility and pointing at other people to blame for things. We had far too many players last season who were willing to hide when we were playing badly. And one thing you can say about Anthony Ralston, regardless of the quality of his performance, is that he's never not given 100% for the shirt or given 100% for the team, and that's the case again tonight.
When you look at that, Laura, and I know that we had to bring in another right back because at that stage he was Ralston was the only right back at the club. We loaned out Leo Connor to Tranmere Rovers. It doesn't look as though he's going to have a career at Celtic. You know, that's 2 season-long loans out at Tranmere that he's had since he's come in from Manchester United. He's also had a spell at Partick Thistle. It doesn't look as though it's going to work out for O'Connor. So we've got Ralston there, and then behind Ralston, all we had were 2 players who could play right back, but it wasn't a preferred position in Stephen Welsh and Urhoghide, who we've not seen playing in a competitive game yet for Celtic. So we had to bring in a right back, and if you're going to bring one in, you're not going to go into the market and buy someone who you think's worse than the player that's at the club. So we brought in Juranovic, who obviously is an international class player. And a lot of Celtic fans, I believe, looked at that and thought, well, that's Ralston now going to play backup. Is it bold to suggest that Ralston and Montgomery are our first choice fullbacks?
I mean, at the moment, you would have to say with Ralston, and I think as everybody has said, if he was anybody else, if he had another name, I think you would be more than willing to say he's our first choice right back. It's just because of the history of the criticism that he's had that people seem to be willing to say, well, you know, we'll get a better right back in and put him out the team. But you've got to go on performances. You've got to go on what the players are showing. And on that basis, I think Ralston has earned the right to keep his shirt. If he doesn't keep up this level of performance, then absolutely somebody else has to come in. But at the moment, it's his shirt, I think, for somebody else to fight it off him. And that includes Juranovic. Yes, he's come in with a better pedigree and a price tag on his head. But at the end of the day, they're all professional footballers, all playing for their reputations and for their place in the team. And at the end of the day, if Ralston is outplaying him in those stakes, then he deserves to stay in the team until that isn't the case anymore. Montgomery, I think, you know, look at the left back choices that we have. Bolingoli, Taylor, Montgomery. I can't think of anybody else that would really slot into that position. I personally think out of the 3 of them, and it might just be a fact of the matter that we don't have many choices, but for me, he's certainly the best of the 3, and I don't think his age or his lack of experience should come into it. He's got a chance to get a run in the team now with Taylor being out for what looks like a couple of months with that shoulder injury. And if he does what Ralston's done on the other side and takes that chance with both hands, then it'll be a case of Greg Taylor having to fight to get that shirt back off him when he does come back in the new year.
Unexpected bonuses in Ralston and Montgomery, certainly the way they've performed since Postecoglou's come in. When we're looking at the central defensive partnership, we spoke about that again before the game. 29 minutes in, there's far too many passes at the back for my liking. Joe Hart ends up giving away possession and then having to make a save. Starfelt did not start off that well. A couple of stray passes. There was a pass where he tried to pass it through McCarthy to get it to Cameron Carter-Vickers. He looks comfortable if he's passing the ball 10 or 20 yards. Anything beyond that, he seems to have a limited range. And it's a wee bit of a concern. I mean, I've said before, he seems to be okay at winning the ball, winning headers, but with the ball at his feet, he still looks pretty uncomfortable, Laura.
Yeah, this is a weird one because we talked before the game about players who stick out as not being an Ange signing, and we mentioned McCarthy and Scales as 2 of them. You know, like speculation would suggest if you put 2 and 2 together that they were perhaps legacy signings along with the boys from Sheffield Wednesday. Starfelt has never been considered anything other than an Ange signing, and certainly nothing that Ange has said has suggested otherwise. But it's one that baffles me because he doesn't play football in the way a centre-back that Ange would like would play football. You know, he doesn't seem very comfortable on the ball, seems more comfortable in the tackle and in the physical side of the game than he does with passing the ball. It's far from the first time that he's struggled with passing the ball out from the back. We're not asking for somebody like him to be spraying the ball about like a Beckenbauer or finding people 50 or 60 yards up the pitch, but he's far too often putting us in positions where a simple ball across the back is putting us in a great amount of danger. And I think it's it's one of those things you would like to think could be coached out of his game, but given his age and his level of experience, it's one of those things that you think, is he going to get rid of that from his game? It happened at the start of the game again. He seemed to settle, but it's something that I really would love to see him get rid of from his game, because if he doesn't, then you're always going to be going into games thinking, well, I hope Starfelt settles down soon. Otherwise, we're liable to give up a few silly chances in the first sort of 20, 30 minutes of a match.
Yeah, hearts in the mouth stuff at times. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Well over 1,000 live watching a Celtic State of Mind there at half time. Thank you all for your comments in the comment section. We will go back to the second half. So thank you also to Laura Bradford for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.